Hello, Naomi here of the cottage, Gnome in the cottage. Today I had planned to do, I guess it's called a deep dive. For some of you, it won't be a deep dive. It is a very serious topic, though. So I know my sense of humor is a little bit quirky. I tend to try to smile a lot and make jokes. This isn't a joking topic, but we're going to go forth with it, and it is heavy. We're talking about a very crucial topic at this point. It is the rise of authoritarian regimes, specifically Nazi Germany, and the unsettling parallels we're witnessing in our own country, even today. Now, you know what you might be thinking? Another history lesson. I don't want a history lesson. It was my worst subject. Trust me, I know that you might be hesitant to hear me talk about history, but this isn't just about the past. Why do we learn about history? You should know the answers to this. There's actually more than one reason. But the most common answer would be, well, so the horrible things from the past don't repeat themselves, and the systems that worked do repeat themselves, and we can put into place again. We can learn a lot from the past. So it's about understanding the warning signs today, so we can prevent history from repeating itself. Or it already kind of is, so we can maybe stop it in its tracks, stop it before it gets to the horrific conclusions that we saw in other authoritarian regimes. So, let's dive in.
The symbols and the leaders change, but Germany's maniacal urge to impose its will on others continues from generation to generation.
Anyway, you learned about this in history. Other groups were targeted. Of course, LGBT community was targeted. Other people that were considered to be enemies of the Nazi party, but the idea was purification of the Aryan race. That was the propaganda that was spread. And the scapegoat was Jewish people. It's called anti-Semitism, which unfortunately was not brand new to Nazi Germany. That's a whole other topic for another time. So let's take some specific examples. Marion Calwray. She was just 10 years old, and she was forced into the Warsaw Ghetto. She recalled, so she lived, which is rare. Most of the time, I stayed alone at home. As a child, it was kind of an adventure. Something exciting was happening. A child thought she was on an adventure because the information that was shared was not there. The people who were told they had to leave their homes, their businesses, all of their belongings, and take only a few suitcases with them, they didn't know where they were going. They had no idea the horrors that awaited them until they were upon the horror that awaited them. So take Jacob Blekitny, who was transferred from the Miawa ghetto and then to Auschwitz. He said, after 2 weeks, we started moving via peasant cart to the Muaga ghetto, finding the place empty when we arrived because the previous inhabitants had all been transferred to Auschwitz. You've probably heard of Auschwitz. I've seen tours of it. I've seen many vloggers tour it, and it is sobering experience. I can't imagine how it would be to tour it in person. So these are real people who suffered unimaginable horrors. Now, let's fast forward to today. What we're seeing is a disturbing erosion of democratic norms. So the Trump administration has been defying court orders, deporting individuals without due process, and even considering deporting American citizens. And I really want to drive this point home, be very clear about it. The Constitution is the law of the land. The Constitution is Trump's Trump. The Constitution trumps state law. The Constitution says no person shall be deprived of due process, citizen or not, legal or not. If they are a human being of flesh and blood with a body, they get due process. Even criminals get due process. And I hope that we are aware that Democrats and Republicans, wherever you are on the political spectrum, or even if you're not on the political spectrum, most people agree we do not want criminals in our society. However, one, they still get due process. That's something the United States requires. And the people that they've been deporting, you've seen the footage. A college student, a grad student being abducted off the street by masked people who didn't identify themselves right away. If they can do that, and by the way, I have heard that 70 to 90% of those people were not criminals. So, you're being lied to by the Trump regime, and they lie all the time. That's nothing new. But take the case of Kilmer Abrazo Garcia. If you have not heard that name by now, what are you doing? You need to Google him. You need to look up what's happening with him. I just saw a very powerful testimony by his sweet wife.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer. I am Kilmer's wife. He is a father, a son, a brother, and a proud member of CASA and Smart Union member who has dedicated himself to make our family's American dream reality. That dream was shattered on March 12th when he was abducted and disappeared by the United States government in front of our 5-year-old child. Today is 34 days after his disappearance, and I stand before you filled with spirit that refuses to bring down. I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive. Kilmer, if you can hear me, stay strong. God hasn't forgotten about you. Our children are asking, when would you come home?
He's a Maryland resident, legally living in the U.S. He was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, despite a court order to keep him in the country. The administration admitted that it was an administrative error, but has done little to rectify the situation. In fact, J.D. Vance took to social media to smear this man's name. He had to resort to parking tickets. I think Carolyn Levitt is just saying, you should be ashamed of yourself for wanting criminals in our country. The man's not a criminal. The courts said, bring him back. Facilitate bringing him back. And Trump met with the dictator of El Salvador the other day, and they decided they weren't going to bring him back. That man has children. That man has a family. And this prison in El Salvador is known for being horrific conditions. In fact, it's like a dark hole. They are tortured, and very good chance never to be seen again. Can you imagine being that wife, that child, a brother, a relative, a friend of Mr. Garcia? And that should make you afraid, because on a hot mic moment, and this has been recorded and it's been all over the news, Trump and the dictator of El Salvador were caught discussing the situation of the deportations, and Trump said something to the effect of homegrowns will be next. So, in other words, people who were born in the United States and have birthright citizenship. I don't know. I don't know what criteria the Trump regime will use to deport people to concentration camps, basically. Is it going to be skin color? Is it going to be political affiliation? They want to audit Harvard University's students and faculty about their political ideologies. Straight out of the authoritarian handbook. It's not just him. Like I said, about 90% of migrants sent to El Salvador lacked any U.S. criminal record. Okay, I guess that is verified. Many were accused of gang affiliations based on flimsy evidence and deported without proper legal proceedings. Okay, now let's get into the importance of due process. If you're like me, you started hearing about due process in civics class in high school somewhere. And I had that class after lunch, and I remember we would stop at the school store and I would get these fizz candies, and so I have this association with hearing my teacher say due process, and he said it with a lot of due process. I don't know how he said it, and I was eating fizz, and one day he just stopped and he looked at me and he said, "You're always eating candy." And I don't know, it was in the middle of a due process lecture, and I didn't get any due process. I was just accused, but I did not get punished for eating that candy. Our Constitution guarantees due process, as I've said, for all persons, not just citizens. Undermining this principle sets a dangerous precedent. If we allow the government to strip away rights from one group, who's to say they won't come for the rest of us? All right, so what can we do? Here are some actionable steps. April 19th, protests. Join national protests to stand up against injustices. Please do it. Okay, there is Indivisible. You can sign up with Indivisible/Mobilize. You can get the Mobilize app on your phone. You can find events near you. But just go to your capital. Google it. Facebook groups. If you join a 50-51 Facebook group for your local area, stands for 50 states, 50 protests, one movement, they will tell you where the protests are. And you might even get to volunteer, or you might get to go with a group. If you don't feel safe, if it's your first protest, I have a short video on packing for a protest if you're going, say, to DC and it's going to be a longer trip. But even for a day, if you're planning to be there for a few hours, you're going to want sunblock, healthy food, water. So, and you want to not pack heavy backpacks, because you're going to be walking around all day protesting. It takes a lot of energy, and it's worth it. Another is, I've already said this, the 5 Calls app. Download it to your phone. It has you put in your location, and it will give you a list of issues that you would like to call and address. You could do all of them. You could do 3 a day, because what it does is it gives you the number to either the senators, the representatives that you need to call, or even the governor. It gives you a short script that sounds good. It's perfect, because you need to keep it short and sweet. You don't have to leave your name. You can. And actually, I've gotten several messages back from Maggie Goodlander. So, these calls actually work, because these are our Congress people. Their jobs are contingent on whether or not they do their jobs and we vote for them. Join local resistance groups. Start a local group. I know that Mobilize and Indivisible offer very simple ways, and even a starter kit for starting a local group to organize and advocate for change. And run for office. If you've never considered it, look it up. There are several programs out there that give you kind of a crash course on how to run for office, and to my knowledge, they're free, because right now we need people to run for office who have a brain in their head and are on the right side of morality. All right, so consider even a local office. Start on a local level. Look, there's testimonies from young representatives in the House they say they Googled how to run for office, and there they are 4 years later, and they're seeing what goes on a day-to-day basis. Another one, talk to your people. They on social media, in person. It's time to engage in conversations with friends and family about these issues. And I know it's uncomfortable. I know you've probably cut people out of your life over this administration, and that is sad. However, there is a way to engage with and confront the issues that people are ignoring when it comes to the Trump regime. There are ways you can point out logical fallacies, disconnections in logical thought. You can do it without getting into a fight. Yes, I know that the people who are hardcore MAGA tend to make it very uncomfortable to have a conversation because they resort to name calling, they resort to whataboutisms, and they resort to blaming Biden and talking about past administrations. But you know what you can do? Keep them on the point. If you want to acknowledge honestly. I say, personally, I didn't agree with this thing that happened in the past, but that's actually not what we're talking about right now. And right now is a crisis. It's a constitutional crisis, it's a societal crisis, and it is headed off a cliff. And we need to do something. Authoritarianism thrives in silence, but we won't stay silent. The time to act is now. History is watching, and you want to be on the right side of it. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you are watching me for the first time, welcome. If you've been watching me a few times now and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? No, just kidding. If you wouldn't mind, it doesn't hurt. Just click the subscribe button. And if you want to click that like button, that'd be great. And even if you want to just drop a comment, please do. Try to keep it civil. But I would absolutely love any comments on anything I said or anything you're thinking, groups you've joined, things you're thinking about doing. Let's start a conversation in the comments. That would be great. Thank you so much. Until next time, Gnome in the Cottage, out.